From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, March the 20th, 2023. We open with a terror attack last night in the West Bank. The IDF said a terrorist shot at an Israeli vehicle and hit two civilians. This as they were driving through the Palestinian town of Huwara. The IDF said the soldiers and the civilian who was hit shot at the terrorist and hit him. The terrorist fled. IDF soldiers located the wounded terrorist and arrested him. The injured were treated at the scene and taken to the hospital for further treatment. Hebrew media later named one of the injured as David Stern, an American Israeli who is a former U.S. Marine who lives in the Jewish settlement of Itamar. He was seriously injured when he was hit by gunfire, though despite those injuries, he was able to fire back at the terrorist. The Times of Israel said Stern's wife, who was with him in the car, was not hit by gunfire, but suffered from traumatic shock and was treated for that at the scene. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, "I am praying for the wounded hero injured in the attack in Huwara, who was able to neutralize the terrorist. I send my support to the security forces operating in the area. I reiterate, anyone trying to harm the citizens of Israel will pay the price." Huwara, by the way, is where two Israeli brothers were shot and killed by a Palestinian terrorist in a similar incident just 3 weeks ago when they were driving through the town. And sadly, a victim critically injured just 11 days ago in a terror attack in Tel Aviv has died. 32-year-old Or Eshkar was shot along with two of his friends at close range by a Palestinian terrorist when they were walking past a cafe on Dizengoff Street on March the 9th. Ichilov Hospital Director Ronnie Gamzu said today of Eshkar, "Unfortunately, the severity of his wounds was deadly. After a heroic struggle of long days in which we saw a man of steel fight for his life, we were forced to declare his death." Israel's President Isaac Herzog saying the heart is torn by his death, sending condolences to his family, partner, and loved ones. After last night's terror attack, Netanyahu spoke to U.S. President Joe Biden, telling him that Israel would continue to take action everywhere against terrorists and the architects of terrorism. They also spoke about Iran and expanding the circle of peace and the judicial reform. His office said, Netanyahu telling Biden that Israel was and will remain a strong and vibrant democracy. The White House said of the phone call that Biden welcomed the March 19th meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, between Israel, the Palestinian Authority, Egypt, Jordan, and the United States, with an aim to reduce tensions, and that he reinforced the need for all sides to take urgent, collaborative steps to enhance security coordination, condemn all acts of terrorism, and maintain the viability of a two-state solution. Regarding the judicial reform crisis in Israel, the White House said the president underscored his belief that democratic values have always been and must remain a hallmark of the U.S.-Israel relationship, that democratic societies are strengthened by genuine checks and balances, and that fundamental changes should be pursued with the broadest possible base of popular support. More now on the summit that the president mentioned, a gathering yesterday in Egypt with officials from Israel, the Palestinian Authority, Egypt, Jordan, and the U.S., with the aim of lowering tensions ahead of the holy Muslim month of Ramadan. In a joint statement, Israel and the Palestinians said they agreed to work together to advance security and peace, and to work to end unilateral measures for a period of 3 to 6 months, and to establish a mechanism to curb and counter violence, incitement, and inflammatory statements and actions. Well, the World Happiness Report came out today. The UN-sponsored index is published every year and has been since 2012 on what is observed as the International Day of Happiness, March the 20th, ranking 137 countries around the world based on residents' own assessments of their situation, as well as economic and social data. Israel placed 4th on the list, which is up 5 spots from last year. It should be noted, though, that the data was collected between 2020 and 2022, way before the recent judicial reform crisis in Israel. Finland ranked number 1, followed by Denmark and Iceland. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, March the 20th at 7 o'clock. It's episode 6 of the hit Israeli TV show Srugim. At 7:30, a look at sex education in Jewish day schools. At 8, Abigail Pogrebin speaks with CEO of the Jewish Women's Archive, Judith Rosenbaum, about preserving and sharing the stories of impactful Jewish women throughout history. Then it's the Director of Queen Shoshana on Jewish Cinematheque and the Director of 93 Queen on L'chaim. At 10, transgender activist Abby Stein shares her journey. And coming up next, Shahar Azani speaks to former Mideast envoy from the U.S., Jason Greenblatt, about Iran and Saudi Arabia's recent announcement of the resumption of diplomatic relations and what it means for Israel and the region. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, March the 20th, 2023. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well.